You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, a couple of developments actually not that long ago. I think Tom just mentioned this on the news. So we heard from one union saying, no go, thanks for the government's latest offer. And then literally just not that many minutes ago, the FAE said the same thing. Sorry, no go. So there is no settlement here. And in a press conference that aired earlier this morning, the English part of it, we have a couple of clips, and you get your comment on this. So first, this is Eric Gingras, who's the CSQ union president or vice president, talking about and answering the question whether the union feels trapped by virtue of the fact that the government has come up with nothing they consider a real offer. Listen to this.
We're not trapped. We're ready to have a deal done. We're set on our objectives, and we know what we need to get a deal done. So basically, we hope that the next 48 to 72 hours, we're going to be able to do something. If not, it's going to be back after Christmas that we're going to be able to see what's on the table. And our members are clear. Workers from the public sectors are saying this negotiation is very important. We have high hopes, and that's why we have to meet them. Hopes are high, still the same. People are motivated, and that's why we're saying today that let's take the next 48 to 72 hours to get the deal done.
Okay, and then there's Magali Picard, president of the FTQ. Same answer to that question.
If I was the government, I would feel very, very trapped now. Not only the Front Commun, but when you look at the situation right now, all the public servants under that government are fighting. Everybody are saying to that government, please do your job, do your homework. There's no way we can continue like that. Not just for our working conditions, but for all the services that we provide to the population of Quebec.
Okay, so there you go. Pretty much the same take on this one, suggesting the trap is the government. They're not able to get this deal done. What do you think?
Well, I think it was very eloquent that Treasury Board President Sonia Bell had absolutely zero comment on this morning's press conference, which included, the reiteration that we're not bluffing here. There's going to be a full-scale strike. And at one point, there was some speculation. Is the government actually trying to force us into this? Are they actually going to just stand still and make this happen? And the implication being that they realize that public opinion is against them. They realize that they are backed into a corner. And if it was a matter that this was a government that had exhibited any kind of economic responsibility, even in the last 6 months, you might be able to cut them some slack. Between the time I sent in my topics and the time we're talking now, my colleague Phil Autier over at the Montreal Gazette filed a story about the CAC's minister responsible for bringing NHL franchises to Quebec and finance Eric Girard. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the report. He issued a financial statement for Quebec. Our deficit is going to go up from $4 billion to $4.1 billion. Crown corporations are not making anywhere near the money they were supposed to. Unemployment is creeping up. In other words, the government's in pretty bad economic shape. And I think the one dollop of icing on this piece of cake for Francois Legault is a line in Phil's story that says the one saving grace for Girard in the 2 quarters was a $1.1 billion increase in federal transfer payments. In other words, Francois Legault, who wants to, have Quebec, become economically autonomous, this is a rather failing grade for his efforts. But don't kid yourself; they will probably tuck this aside and say, when it comes to trying to settle with the union, saying, well, we don't have any money. Probably because we spent it all on batteries. You know what I'm saying? The billions of dollars we went down to the depth and bought $1 billion worth of batteries for a societal change which may not happen. But apart from that, everything's just tickety-boo.
Oh, yeah.
But and Madame Picard's comments I thought were very apropos because this is not just about money. When healthcare workers complain about the healthcare system, when education workers complain about the education network, they are echoing complaints that patients and parents and users share. And it's interesting to see it. I thought for sure that between now and Christmas, and I may be wrong, I mean, we still have a couple of days before the Christmas weekend, François Legault would, call one of his emergency Mon François press conferences to sort of appeal to solidarity, to appeal to the unions, to do it for the kids, to do it for the poor patients. I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen at this point because the one, and I've never seen this before, the one distinctive element of this labor dispute, which quite frankly, it's difficult to believe, this has actually been going on for more than a year. We're talking about this like, in events in the last 3 months. But this negotiation began in the fall of 2022. But the thing is, François Legault cannot defend the government's position without essentially attacking the position of a lot of Quebecers, perhaps many of whom voted for him. So he is in a very, very tough situation. And I think this is one of the instances where we're going to see that François Legault will not be able to bully himself out of this. I mean, even if he turns around next month and tries to play the role of the great rescuer of the Quebec nation and say, we're legislating him back to work, that is going to ring very, very hollow with people who have heard all kinds of promises about improvements to education from Bernard Drinville, all kinds of promises about improvements to the healthcare network from Christian Dubé, none of which materialized, nor are they expected to materialize anytime soon. So, yeah, this is a tough situation. And indeed, I think in this particular instance, trap is a very, very appropriate word.
I'm just thinking to myself, yes, this thing will eventually get settled. If it ends in back to work legislation, I actually think that plays, to the union's favor. I know
Absolutely.
You're right. So it's only going to get worse. I can't imagine what they're thinking there now. I love, there was one quote today, which I think also came earlier on from the first quote. I'm trying to remember his name, Eric. I can't remember his name. Who basically said, what, every time Bernard Drinville says something, we know it's going to be something bad. I love that because if it's not coming from Sonia Labelle, who now says she's not saying anything, they send out someone else, and whenever Bernard Drinville has something to say, it turns out to be pretty much nothing or something bad. So I can't see this getting settled anytime soon.
And what gets me, and your remark is perfectly normal when you say, I don't know what they're thinking. But unfortunately, and I don't want to be, overly grim, the fact is they're not thinking. Yeah. This is a government that's never had a strategy. This is a government that lurches from one day to the next, hoping that something's going to drop out of the ceiling that will help them get out of this mess. Well, this is a mess that they cannot disentangle themselves from. And the reality is, and now with Christmas coming, and at least there's going to be a break. I mean, do I despair for the school year of Quebec students?
Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely do. Okay. But I will tell you, I am despairing more about academic. I don't have any kids. I don't have any skin in this game apart from my tax money. But I am despairing more about education in Quebec than François Legault and Pascal Derry are despairing about higher education in Quebec. You can't play both sides of the road on this anymore.
Exactly. They're
you
full
can't
of
play
it.
games with people and say, no, this is a main priority for me, and play stupid political games aimed at currying favor with a clutch of language activists and turn around and expect Le Grand Quebec to take you seriously. It's not going to happen. It isn't happening. And honestly, as much as parents and perhaps patients are dreading what's going to happen in January, I have a sneaking suspicion François Legault also has a few concerns going into January 1st.
I hope so. I hope he's not sleeping at night.
Or at least not well. Jim, thank you. You have yourself a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Demain.